साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः।
Sai Ram.
Sai Ram, everyone.
Oh my goodness, I have a different.
Krishna Priya, just
Yes, I'll start.
Yeah, please.
Sai Ram, Amishi, and Sai Ram children. It's a pleasure to have you all here for I think one of the first sessions for the new batch, which has passed out to group 3 and come to group 4. So we have many of them attending along with our past group 4 students. So I will start with introducing Sister Amishi, who is a Vikas alumnus. And she's a playwright, and she's done many scripts for our Ashadi and Parti Yatra programs at Puttaparthi. She's also an author, screenwriter, director, and trainer. And she's published many books. She's also been interviewed on the All India Radio. Devshiti, can you mute yourself? And she's been on the expert panel of the Star Television Network and has been on the creative board for many production houses and corporates. And she also contributes articles to the India chapter web portal. And there are many articles also on Sanatan Dharma, where podcasts have been made, and she has a list of those, and is a regular speaker on various aspects of vibration and energy science and their practical applications in life. And she's directed many plays, concerts, and written articles. She's also faculty and mentor at the Sri Sathya Sai National Leadership Program, and also a trainer at the Sri Sathya Sai Wellness Center on self-awareness and effective communication. She has her own YouTube channel on Pep Thoughts. So with this brief introduction, we'll start with the session. And I'm because I've heard her before, that this is going to be an enjoyable session on the Indian culture. And whatever queries or questions you have, you can ask Amishi Didi and she will answer. Okay, so let's start, Amishi. Sai Ram.
Sai Ram, thank you so much for this very generous introduction. And thank you so much, all the participants, to be here on a Sunday afternoon, to be here, and I hope it is worth your while. So before we start, just one question. Are you all comfortable with English? Do we mix English and Hindi? What is the... shall we mix English and Hindi? Yeah? Is everybody okay? Give me a thumbs up with regard to that. Give me a thumbs up. Awesome. So before we start, there is this important question that we need to understand. Culture as a word, as a concept, Is culture important? And I request all of you to, whoever, please just unmute yourself and shoot your answer. Is culture important? Because by the grace of God, we have been in Bal Vikas. We are all good people. We are not evil. We are not bad. We will not hurt anybody. Itna to bharosa hai, right? No matter, we may make a lot of mistakes in life, but at the end of the day, we are decent human beings. We are good people. Having said that, isn't that what is most important? Being a good human being. So culture important kyun hai? Is it important at all? Do you think? Come on, I want you to unmute and just shoot off. Let's have at least 3-4 responses. Do you think culture is important at all? क्या culture, संस्कृति जरूरी है? Yes? Even the Balvikas gurus.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, tell me. Pallavi, is that? Tell me.
Pallavi, you have to unmute.
Ma'am, so you want me to tell why culture is important?
Is it
Yes.
important? And if yes, why?
Ma'am, culture is important because it shows our dignity and uh, it shows our ethnicity and how we treat others.
So you're saying that culture, firstly, ethnicity is very important. So you're saying it shows you your roots. And that is important.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, fine. And it also tells you how to treat others. Great points. Anybody else?
Yes, culture is important, I think, because it reflects our character.
So are you saying that people of one culture are better than the other, or people of another culture?
No, I don't like to say like that. I don't mean that.
Okay. But I'll come back to your point. You have made a very important point. Yes. Anybody else would like to respond? Yes. Anybody else? You see, what is more important, being a good human being or having a cultural ethnicity? What is more important? Good human. If you are saying good human being, give me a thumbs up. Good human being. But the question is, and this is the most important question, what defines goodness? How do we define goodness? How do we define what is right? I'll give you an example. Is everybody over here in this group a feminist? Do you believe women deserve respect in society? Yes, give me a thumbs up. Does everybody believe that? Is there anybody who doesn't believe it? No. Have you heard this statement? Have you heard this statement? Whenever we talk about feminism in India, हम एक चीज हमेशा बोलते हैं कि जिस कल्चर में आप दुर्गा, लक्ष्मी, सरस्वती जी, अलग अलग देवियों की पूजा करते हैं, उस कल्चर में आप विमेन को अंडरमाइन कैसे कर सकते हैं? Have you all heard that or not? Yes? Thumbs up, give me a thumbs up. Let's make it interactive. Come on. Have you all heard that or not? Isn't it something which is very common that अगर हम देवियों की पूजा करते हैं तो of course it is our duty कि society में women have to be respected. The concept that women have to be respected, that women have to be looked up to, is there in our culture. There are cultures in this world, जैसे अथर्व बोल रहा था, there are cultures in this world, other cultures in this world जो कहते हैं कि a woman is born to be servile to a man. There are cultures in this world that say a woman should not be educated. Our culture says the Devi of education is Mata Saraswati. There are people who say, there are cultures in this world who say that women should not step out of the house. Women can't earn. The Devi of our business and economics and all kinds of prosperity is Devi Lakshmi. And this is not a modern concept. The Mahabharata talks about, there is a scene in the Mahabharata where Draupadi talks about working women. It is not a novel concept. The thing is, हमने कभी महाभारत पढ़ा ही नहीं है, हमने कभी रामायण, वाल्मीकि रामायण पढ़ा ही नहीं है. Why you need your cultural roots? Culture इसलिए जरूरी नहीं है कि सिर्फ इसलिए जरूरी नहीं है that you know how to dress or you know बिंदी लगाना है या नहीं लगाना है, साड़ी पहनना है या कुछ और पहनना है. It's not about that. That I'll come to that part later. Culture is important because your culture tells you what is right and what is wrong. It is ingrained in our value system. So, and that is what Swami also says. Swami says, Sanskriti comes from sanskar. Culture comes from values. And feel free if you want to add something to what I'm about to tell you just now, you want to refute a point, please feel free. Let's have a discussion on this. But जितना भी मैंने research किया है on culture and predominantly on Indian culture, I have come across 5 points. हम कैसे decide करें कि there is a culture is worth following or not? हम कैसे decide करें that this culture is giving the right human values or not? इसके 5 factors is what I have arrived at. So I'll share those 5 points with you and then we'll take it from there. Okay? Okay. Now the 5 points are, so as Swami says, Sanskriti comes from sanskar and Sanskriti is a way of life. Now, which way of life should be followed? ये हम कैसे decide करेंगे? So, factor 1, 5 elements of a Sanskriti and a good Sanskriti. Status of women in that particular Sanskriti or society. Is that an important factor? Give me a thumbs up if you feel कि हाँ, जिस society में women का respect होता है, that is a good society. जिस society में women का respect नहीं होता है, that is not a good society. Basically, I'm okay. Second factor, equality in society. सबके पास opportunity है कि नहीं है, फिर चाहे वो man हो, woman हो, कोई भी belief system से हो, कोई भी profession से हो, कोई भी economic status से हो, do they deserve equality of opportunity or not? Yes or no? तो आप decide कर सकते हैं whether a culture is good or bad based on this concept कि उस culture में equality कितना है. Okay? Third factor, what that particular society is contributing to the world. जिस तरीके से वो लोग अपना जीवन जीते हैं in any particular culture, what does that give to the world? Isn't that a very important factor कि एक culture, एक society successful and wholesome है या नहीं? Yes or no? Give me a thumbs up. Yes? Fourth factor, एक कल्चर में लॉजिकल थिंकिंग है कि नहीं, ओपन माइंडेडनेस है कि नहीं, सेंस ऑफ इनोवेशन है कि नहीं, साइंस है कि नहीं, और इज इट जस्ट के पूरी दुनिया एक किताब में सिमट जाती है, whatever is written in that book is correct, whether it is not, whether whether you believe it or not, whether it is correct or not, whether it's hurting somebody, whether it is not hurting, it doesn't matter. It is written in a book, so it's fine. Or do people of that society think for themselves and decide कि हाँ इस situation में ये सही है, इस situation में ये गलत है, and independently think and do the right things? Isn't independent thinking a big part of a sound, wholesome culture? Yes or no? Yes? Type in the chat box if you feel yes. Type Y or type no if you feel no. Yes? Yes, of course. Of course. Fantastic. And the final factor that decides whether a particular culture or society is wholesome or not comes from this. Why is this not moving? 1 second. Tavya, why is this not moving suddenly? Page down. Okay. Balance of spiritual thinking and material prosperity. Is that important or not? आप देखिए, without spiritual thinking and only material prosperity, what happens to a society? Which is what happened, which is happening all across Europe, which is happening now as we speak in the US. Without a sound background, you have people wondering whether I'm a man or a woman every day of their lives. There's no spiritual understanding that we have in our culture that says a human being is not the body, a human being is the soul, is the person living inside the body. They are so caught up with their body कि उनको forget doing anything great for anybody else. उनको खुद का ही ये है कि am I a man or a woman? Have you heard of this happening in the world? Yes or no? Do you agree with what I'm saying? Yes? Balance of spiritual thinking and material. You can't say कि I'm only spiritual and I don't need money. Of course we need money. Of course we need prosperity. Lakshmi Devi in as material wealth also. Of course, Lakshmi Devi is much beyond just material wealth. There is a concept of Ashta Lakshmi that we have. But Lakshmi Devi, wealth, Kuber, it is a very integral part of our culture. But at the same time, it is so spiritual. Any society that does not have material prosperity, uska koi future nahi hai. Any society that does not have spiritual thinking, uska bhi koi future nahi hai. People over there will become lost, will become stressed. This balance is a very important aspect of any society. Now let us understand, अभी हमारे Indian culture में ये सारे how do we fare on these 5 points? Okay, so let's try and understand that. First and foremost, status of women. Before I go on, do you think the status of women in India has been over the ages good, that women have been respected in this country? When we talk about women being respected, I have some factors to decide that. Okay, do women get their due in this culture? Education. Are women educated? Do we know that Gargi ji has composed a lot of the shlokas of the Rig Veda. Such is the intellectual depth of the women of India. If you read the Ramayana, and I'm not talking about some Amish Tripathi, or I'm talking about proper Valmiki Ramayana, proper Vedavyas Mahabharat. If you look if you study those, if you read those, you will see there are so many instances where women are debating with men about what is written in the Shastras, about what is right, what is wrong. How could they debate unless and until they knew what is written in the Shastras? Which means they were highly educated. I'll give you one simple example. After whatever happened with Draupadi, when Dhritarashtra asked her कि मुझसे कोई वरदान मांगो, so she said कि पांडवों के अस्त्र शस्त्र उनको लौटा दीजिए. Then he said एक और वरदान मांगो, तो she said ये पांडवों का राजपाट दे दीजिए वापस. Then the third thing he said, नहीं मेरा मन अभी भी नहीं भरा है, तुम और कुछ मांगो. तो she said नहीं, शास्त्रों में लिखा हुआ है कि जब कोई ऐसे बड़ा आपसे कहता है कि आप वरदान लो, तब एक ब्राह्मण को सिर्फ एक वरदान अलाउड है, क्षत्रिय को 2 वरदान अलाउड है, वैश्य को 3 वरदान अलाउड है और शूद्र को 4 वरदान. मैंने 2 ले लिए. And the Ramayana and Mahabharata is full of instances where they are talking stuff that is written in the various Shastras. So education, Indian women were highly, highly, highly educated. Another thing, when we talk about queens, even in the medieval times, Bharat mein, India is the only country in the world जहाँ पे north, south, east, west, central India, almost every region of India has had so many queens. विडंबना ये है कि हमारी अपनी हिस्ट्री बुक्स में उनके नाम नहीं है. But I've been doing research and foreigners ने उन queens के बारे में लिखा हुआ है. The magic is not कि हमारे पास queens थे. The magic is कि queens, okay, those queens, उनकी अपनी आर्मी ने कभी उनसे रिवोल्ट नहीं किया. And an army is supposed to be the most macho aspect of society. Correct, na? Soldiers, men, fighters. It's the most macho aspect of society. But they accepted women as their supreme commanders. People love these women like Rudramma Devi, the जो आप देख रहे हैं, this particular the first one is a statue of Ahilya Bai Holkar. People loved these queens. So आप बताइए, when the army is accepting a woman as their supreme commander, when people, men and women, love their queens, इतना प्यार करते हैं कि उनके नाम के मंदिर बना के रखे हुए हैं. आप बताइए, was Indian society then patriarchal? As patriarchal as we think it has been? Do you think that overall, yes, there have been things, and we will discuss a couple of other things also. There have been things which have not been correct. But our culture, this culture is millions of years old. I'm not even talking thousands, I'm talking millions of years old. ऐसे culture में कब एक 100 साल का एक downfall अगर आ भी जाता है, it's nothing big. But today we are sitting here, people of this very culture, and saying that feminism is important, respect to women is important. So we have revived ourselves. But you tell me, IPS, if you say in your chat box, otherwise type no. And I'm talking about historical facts. The next aspect, respect in society, abhi we discussed. Justice in society. Again, let me give you an example. Ravan was a serial rapist. I am not saying this, it is written in the Valmiki Ramayana. His Mother Sita was not his first victim or his only victim. Mother Sita was his last victim. Before that, Ravan has been known to be a rapist. Hundreds of women, wives of rishis, apsaras, human beings, all kinds of. He could not be destroyed because uske paas vardhan tha ki no devata, no rishi, no being, no beast can kill me. So isliye he could not be killed. But I'll tell you one incident. We're talking about justice here. Ravan happened to rape a woman, an apsara called Punji Kasthala. Punji Kasthala went crying to Brahmaji and she said, "What is this?" And she asked him for justice. Brahmaji cursed Ravan that the next time you force yourself on a woman, your head will burst into 1,000 pieces. It was because of this curse that Ravan could not force himself on Sita. You have to understand that nobody blamed the Apsara. Nobody blamed the women. They all thought of Ravan as the villain and eventually उसको ऐसे अवेंज किया कि आज भी हम रावण की एफिजी दशहरे पे जलाते हैं. Justice, anything, whatever happened to Draupadi, that was avenged. Do you think the Bhagavad Gita, what Krishna says, the war of the Mahabharata was not कि पांडवों को उनका राज्य मिल जाए? No, definitely not. The war of the Mahabharata was कि those forces who are supposed to protect women, those forces who are supposed to protect justice, the kings and princes of the land, जब वही एक द्रौपदी के साथ ऐसे कर सकते हैं, एक वुमन के साथ ऐसे कर सकते हैं, so what is the hope of the common man for justice in such a kingdom run by such people? That is why these forces have to be destroyed. It was not so that the Pandavas get back their kingdom. Justice has been the cornerstone of Indian society. And if you see, look at the Ramayana, look at the Mahabharata, all these stories revolve around justice, and especially justice for women. One more very controversial thing that we, for centuries, it has got ingrained in Indian society ki it's a blot. Personally, today I'm talking to you about Indian culture, but personally, whenever even I saw the word sati, I used to feel कि ये किस किस्म का एक रिवाज है? How could we be so cruel to a woman? जिसका husband, we all know what sati is. Yes, give me a thumbs up if you know what sati is. Yes? Yes, we all know what sati is. But do you know that there is no Indian scripture, there is no Hindu scripture that talks about sati or endorses sati? Not one scripture says a woman should do sati. And the real meaning of sati in Rig Veda, as per Rig Veda and a lot of other Dharma Sutras, is they used to tell the woman jiska husband has passed away, they used to tell the woman, and this is the true form of Satya, that you dress up in your finest jewels, go to the body of your husband lying on the pyre, lie down next to that body of the husband, shed your tears, रो लो जितना रोना है, उसके बाद अपनी आंखों में घी डालो. आंखों में घी डालो मतलब stop crying. आंखों में घी डालो, उठो, and take your rightful place in the world. This is what the Rig Veda says about sati. This is what the Dharma Sutras say about sati. If you see in the Ramayana, Dashrath's wives do not commit sati after King Dashrath passes away. Kunti does not commit sati, and Kunti wanted to go with her husband in the anguish that my husband has just passed away. The Brahmins there stopped Kunti from doing it. It is written in the Mahabharata. Why Madri committed? Because we all know, हमने बाल विकास में रामायण महाभारत में ये we know that she felt responsible for her husband's death. That's a different thing. But the Brahmins stopped Kunti from doing sati. Sati is not endorsed in any Indian scripture. Number one. Two, how common was sati in India? Sati was not common at all. British surveys say that sati was 0.0000027% of India, of widows in India committed sati. There were less than 20 deaths a year of sati, and 90% of India में कभी सती हुआ ही नहीं है. Growing up, we were made to believe as though every woman was forced to do sati. No. And in fact, Britishers के अपने records में है that there was never a forcing of a woman to do sati. If at all there was any forcing, it was to stop the woman from doing it. Those, and including people हमने पढ़ा है जैसे राजा राम मोहन रॉय was one of the greatest proponents के सती नहीं होना चाहिए. But Raja Ram Mohan Roy was the one who was against the Britishers passing a law on sati. Do you know why? Because he said कि इंडिया में किसी scripture में सती नहीं है. All we need to do to stop this practice, जितना भी थोड़ा बहुत हो रहा है, less than 20 deaths a year, जितना भी हो रहा है थोड़ा बहुत, all we need to do to stop it is to convince Hindus that sati हमारे scriptures में नहीं है. We don't want the Britishers to pass a law. You know why the Britishers passed a law against sati and why it got introduced in our history books as this great demon? It got introduced in our history books because they wanted to show the world that they are in India not to loot us, but they are the white man जो Indian barbarians को light दिखाने आए हैं. Because they wanted to justify being in India, they used sati as a tool. And by the way, I'll just give you one aside of how ridiculous this is. And we have grown up hating our culture because we thought sati was a big part of it. The reason, I'll give you one simple. During the British Raj in India, there have been 31 famines in India. And you can verify this information I'm telling you. This is all researched, well researched and referenced. 31 famines in India. And these famines were not created by natural forces. These famines were created by Britishers. क्या करते थे वो लोग? हमारे जो food grains हम लोग produce करते थे, वो food grains they would export, they would sell or send it to their military establishments throughout the world. Even if Indians starved, 84 million people in India have died in these 31 famines. And even today, we suffer from obesity and diabetes in India because those famines made genetic changes in the Indian body, in this region. So even today, our bodies have the tendency to store more sugar and more fat because the body developed that coping mechanism to so many famines happening one after the other. So what I'm trying to say is, it is high time that we started studying our own culture on our own. Please do not go by what you have read in your history textbooks, because a lot of that is a distortion of the truth that is mentioned in our scriptures and in our texts. And sati is one such thing. Okay, let's go on. I can go on and on with this, but let's go on to the next part. Equality in society. ठीक है? This is very interesting. हमको बोलते हैं कि हिंदुइज्म में and in Indian culture there is a lot of casteism बहुत है. And one of the greatest examples of casteism is Karna, right? I was shocked when I read the Vedavyas Mahabharata for my book, upcoming book. Do you know that Karna was educated by Dronacharya? जब कर्ण द्रोणाचार्य जी के पास गया कि उसको सीखना है, द्रोणाचार्य did not deny him. He allowed Karn to learn. And बचपन से कर्ण और अर्जुन की राइवलरी बचपन से है. It is written at multiple places in the Mahabharata, Vedavyas Mahabharata. I don't know from where this idea has come कि द्रोणाचार्य did not educate Karn. It's wrong. It is there in the Vedavyas Mahabharata in different chapters. So Karn was, in fact, Karn was the most highly educated because he studied not only under Dronacharya and not only under Kripacharya, from whom the Pandavas and the Kauravas studied, he also studied under Parshuram. So he who was regarded as a Sutputra, who was regarded as a Shudra, was actually educated, the most highly educated, more than even the princes. So Karn, जिसको हम बोलते हैं ना casteism का in India, absolutely wrong. Then, so what was the caste system in India? First of all, the right word is varna. It is not caste. Caste, the word caste has come from a Portuguese word called casta, which has got nothing to do with varna. Varna did not mean hierarchy of status. Varna only meant professional demarcation. That's all that varna meant. If you, in the Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna has said, I think it is chapter 9, I can send you the exact chapter and shlok. He has said that it is the duty of a human being, in order to contribute to society, to do something, take up a profession which the person is naturally inclined to do. And second, the person has to be not only like doing that, he or she also has to have genuine talent for it. You tell me, is this wrong? Shouldn't we all be taking up professions that we are that we love doing, and also that we are talented at doing? Shouldn't we all be doing that? Yes or no? Yeah, give me in the chat box, type yes or no, or give me a thumbs up, whatever. Shouldn't we all be doing professions, taking up professions that we love and that we are talented at? That was the Varna system. It had got nothing to do with any social hierarchy or status. To give you, so who were the Brahmins? The Brahmins were the academia, the philosophers, the thinkers, the teachers, the scientists, the researchers. They were the Brahmins. The Kshatriyas were the military, the bureaucrats, the administrators, soldiers. They were all the Kshatriyas. The Vaishyas were businessmen and traders. And every other profession, the service industry, the tertiary sector, came under the Shudras. The Shudras were doctors, engineers, lawyers, accountants, not accountants, lawyers, builders, sculptors, artists, performers, musicians, and workers. जो हम लोग बोलते हैं ना medieval इंडिया में शूद्रस को टेम्पल में अलाउड नहीं था, नॉनसेंस. The शूद्रस were the one who built those temples. They were sculptors. You know, whoever knows dance, any classical dancers in this, there is this famous story of a sculptor who was supposed a shudra, जिनको एक अप्रेंटिस आता है उनके पास और बोलता है कि प्रभु मुझे आपसे टेम्पल स्कल्पटिंग सीखना है. तो दिस स्कल्प्टर सेज दैट अच्छा तुमको स्कल्पटिंग सीखना है तो वो तो मैं सिखा दूं, लेकिन तुमको नृत्य आता है? नहीं, नृत्य नहीं आता है. तो बोलते हैं अगर नृत्य नहीं आता है तो तुम स्कल्प्ट कैसे करोगे? तो तुम्हें पहले नृत्य सीखना होगा. नृत्य सीखने के लिए तुमको संगीत को समझना होगा. संगीत को समझने के लिए तुम्हें सामवेद पढ़ना होगा, तुम्हें नाट्यवेद पढ़ना होगा. This is how educated the sculptor was. They were not mazdoors. They were artists, and they knew the art and science of their particular profession. So this is what the varnas were. So don't think of आज भी I was trying to, frankly, इस presentation के लिए I was trying to get a nice picture, but in every picture of the four, this thing, they show the Shudra as a poor fellow worker, bichara, you know. It is not like that. You won't believe the number of times in the Veda Vyas Mahabharata the word Shudra Mahatma has come. Because the Shudras were, so many Shudras were richer than even the Vaishyas and the Kshatriyas. The Valmiki Ramayana says that there was not one person in Ayodhya who was not an expert in the Vedas. There was not one person in Ayodhya who was not covered with gold in all the four Varnas. Naradji comes and asks Yudhishthir, are all four Varnas in your kingdom prosperous and happy? Varnas was not a social hierarchy. I'll give you one more example before moving on. Since Balvikas, so I know you know this story, that जब द्रौपदी का स्वयंवर हुआ, so Arjun and Bhim were in the disguise of Brahmins, correct? When Arjun won the contest and when Draupadi was to marry him, all the other Kshatriyas got very irritated. कि जिस टेस्ट को हम पास नहीं कर पाए उसको ये दो ब्राह्मण्स कैसे कर पाए. And they actually fought Bhim and Arjun, who they thought were Brahmins. Abhi aap bataiye, doesn't this show that all the Varnas, there was no social hierarchy? अगर social hierarchy होती तो Kshatriyas जो level 2 पे हम समझते हैं, would they attack somebody on level 1? They wouldn't. The very fact that they attacked means it was only a professional demarcation कि हम क्षत्रिय हैं, बो एंड एरो से, शस्त्र से हमें आना चाहिए, ये ब्राह्मण्स कौन होते हैं हमारे डोमेन में आने वाले. So the varnas were not social hierarchy. Next time anybody talks to you about caste system in India, in Hinduism, please tell them that it is not a social hierarchy. It was only professions. That's it. I told you who were the Shudras: doctors, engineers, scientists, not scientists. Scientists were the Brahmins who did research and innovated. Application of that innovation, Shudras did. Okay? But at the same time, then there is a question, Brahmins को इतना charity वगैरह क्यों देता था? Why do we say feed a Brahmin? Why do we say that Brahmins deserve to be respected? Simple reason, very simple reason. You see, the Kshatriyas had their salaries, अगर वो सोल्जर्स थे तो उनको सैलरीज मिलती थी, ब्यूरोक्रेट्स को सैलरीज मिलती थी, किंग्स एंड क्वींस को अपना ये मिलता था, रॉयल ट्रेजरी उनके पास होती थी, उनकी अपनी सैलरी होती थी। वैश्यास जो बिजनेस करते थे उनके पास प्रॉफिट्स होते थे। जो शूद्रस थे उनके पास कॉन्ट्रैक्चुअल इनकम थी। अगर आर्किटेक्ट है तो आर्किटेक्ट की फीस है, अगर कलाकार है तो कलाकार की फीस है। दे यूज्ड टू गेट दैट। द ब्राह्मण्स वर द ओनली section of society who had no asset to sell. और ब्राह्मण्स क्या करते थे? टीचर्स थे। किसी भी सोसाइटी के लिए टीचर्स इंपॉर्टेंट होते हैं कि नहीं? दे आर द मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट एस्पेक्ट ऑफ सोसाइटी। रिसर्चर्स, research requires a lot of money for indefinite periods of time. कोई भी रिसर्चर नहीं बता सकता कि अरे मैं ये प्रोडक्ट ना, मैं जो सोच रहा हूँ ना, कॉन्सेप्ट कर रहा हूँ, वो 2 साल में निकल जाएगा। कोई रिसर्चर ये नहीं बता सकता। Because when you research, when you experiment, only then can results happen, and you don't know. It may take 2 years, it may take 10 years. तो जो ब्राह्मण्स करते थे, and without going into a lot further detail of this, Brahmins did the most important parts of society. They kept society together through pujas, through yagnas. They kept the society together. कोई सेलिब्रेशन है या कोई दुख का ये है, मॉर्निंग है, सोसाइटी यूज्ड टू कम टुगेदर इन द टेम्पल्स, इन द during the festivals, during the different pujas and ceremonies. Brahmins kept the society together. Every king used to have a Brahmin. Like even Prabhu Shri Ram, Dashrath had Vashisht there. The Pandavas had their Purohit. Everybody had Purohits. Why? Because they knew what the Shastras were, and they would tell the king कि ये सही है, ये गलत है, ये मत करो, वो करो, ये धर्म है, वो अधर्म है. Brahmins did very important things, but they had nothing to sell. That is, Brahmins got charity because they were the only varna that needed charity. And they did this. पुराने जमाने में education was not as commercial as it is now. कोई गुरुकुल में कोई फीस नहीं था. And one final, because I can go on with this is my favorite subject, but in the interest of time, when we talk about jati, what is jati then? You see, jati was basically your family name. But over a period of time, a particular family could have been associated with a profession. जैसे for example, हम सब जानते हैं कि एक फैमिली जिसमें मदर, फादर, अंकल, आंटी, ग्रैंड पेरेंट्स सब डॉक्टर्स होंगे, वहां पे पैदा हुआ कोई भी लड़का या लड़की will most likely be a doctor. Does not mean they have to be a doctor, but most likely. क्यों? क्योंकि दिन भर घर पे बातचीत मेडिकल साइंस के ऊपर होता है. द गाइडेंस इज वेरी प्रॉपर एट होम कि अगर तुमको ये टेस्ट पास करना है तो तुम this is how you have to study, this is what you have to do. So it's more likely that a child born in a family of doctors will become a doctor, a child born in a family of lawyers will become a lawyer. It is likely, not necessary. That is how certain jatis came to be associated with certain professions. But again, this was not by birth. The fact that you do a profession which you like and which you are good at, regardless of whether it is your family profession or not, is the way Indian society functions. Okay, now let's move on to the next aspect. Contribution to the world. What has Indian culture contributed to the world? I think all these images speak for themselves. There are so many such things. First and foremost, one of the most important things that the whole world needs today is our concept of God and individual. Swami has also said, Divyatma Swarupalara, Prema Swarupalara. Indian philosophy and culture is the only philosophy and culture that says not only is God there, but God is Everything in the universe is God, including you and I. And Ekam Sat, Vipra Bahuda Vadanti. God is one. The wise call him by different names, him or her. So for us, if Shiva is God, Rama is God, Devi is God, Aura Mirza is also God, Allah is also God, uh, uh, Jehovah is also God, or everybody is God. We are okay to go to light a candle in a church. We are okay to bow our heads in a gurudwara. We are okay to go to a Shiva temple. We are okay to go to a church. To if we were allowed in Agyaris, we would be happy to go into an Agyari also, because our concept of God is so solid. We don't limit God in form. Don't you think this is the most important philosophy that the world needs today? A culture is important not only about what it gives to society, to itself, but what it gives to the world. Today, if you have to go to a Harvard or a Stanford or any university across Europe and US, you need a minimum budget of 1 crore. Correct? All of you are at that point in life. Do you know? And this is something that I found out only a few weeks back. For 700 years, from the 5th century to the 12th century, students all over the world used to have classes, just as we have GMAT classes and international exam classes. They used to have classes to study Sanskrit so that they could get admission in Nalanda, Vikramshila, Uddantapura, Siddhantapura, Sharda Peeth, all these universities in India. Just as we go by these GMAT scores and all, they used to go by the scores of their Sanskrit examination here. And all this education was free of cost, because our philosophy says that we believe Gyan as Devi Saraswati ji. We believe that knowledge is meant to be shared. Vedas means knowledge. The word Veda means knowledge. We've studied that in Vikas. So we gave that knowledge freely to the world. We took the best from them, we gave the best to them. That is our culture, our society. When you, the first image that you see of this sage, the statue of the sage that you see at the top with a placard, this is sage Sushrut. He is known as the father of surgery, and this statue is there in the Royal College of Surgeons, Australia. And they call him father of surgery. It is very likely that we Indians have never heard his name. The surgical instruments that he designed are the same surgical instruments that are used even today. This is our culture. And why is it our culture? Of course, because, okay, let me just go through Vedas. We've talked about this. Perfection of the human spirit. There is nothing higher than saying that you are also God. There is no other higher level to which you can take a human being. Hindu philosophy, Indian culture is the only culture that says you are also God. We don't work for heaven and hell. We work for moksha, which is beyond heaven and hell. And what do we do for moksha? We don't say कि अगर तुमको मोक्ष लेना है तो इतनी बार दिन में प्रेयर करो, इतनी बड़ी पूजा करो, इतनी छोटी करो. हम ये सब नहीं बोलते. हम क्या बोलते हैं? अगर मोक्ष चाहिए, अगर अपने आप परफेक्शन चाहिए, अच्छे कर्म करो. At the end of the day, an atheist is also a Hindu. A believer in God is also a Hindu. How much more open-minded can a culture get? Perfection of the human spirit is our greatest contribution to the world. And today there are schools in Europe who are learning the Bhagavad Gita with meanings. If we have time, I can share some of those videos with you. And हम लोगों को तो हम तो ऐसे हैं कि हम अगर इंग्लिश ट्रांसलेशन में ना हो, हम एक शब्द पढ़ ही नहीं सकते, समझ ही नहीं सकते अपनी गीता का, अपनी रामायण का. So why are we so scientific? And the scientific achievements of this culture, whether it is giving of zero by Aryabhat, who by the way was a professor in Nalanda also, or whether it is surgical instruments, or whether it is knowledge, why do we have that? Because we promoted logical innovation and creativity. I'll give you one small example. You must be wondering कि नारद का नाम इधर क्यों आ रहा है. I'll tell you why. There is a chapter in the Vedavyas Mahabharat जहां पे ऋषि नारद युधिष्ठिर के पास जाते हैं to teach him the art and science of administration. नारद, जिनको हम हमेशा सुनते हैं वो नारायण नारायण करते हैं, इधर कुछ गड़बड़ किया, उधर कुछ चुगली किया. This is what we think about Narad. But this chapter changed my perception of Narad and I want to share it with you. तो नारद युधिष्ठिर को बताते हैं कि how should you administer your kingdom, and he doesn't give a lecture, he asks questions. 100 questions हैं. I'll just tell you 2 or 3 of those questions. Question 1, एक क्वेश्चन ये है कि नारद जी पूछते हैं, हेलो, तुमने अपने किंगडम में आर्टिफिशियल लेक्स और वेल्स बना के रखे हैं ना, और इज योर एग्रीकल्चर स्टिल डिपेंडेंट ओनली ऑन रेनफॉल? Narad 5,000 years ago is talking about agriculture and he is talking about irrigation. He is not talking about pujas or Vedas, he is talking about this. Narad is saying that hopefully you give your farmers loans at only 1% interest, you don't charge more interest. This was the civilization of India. We balanced the spiritual with the material, promoting justice and equality to all. Nyaya Shastra, why I'm saying Nyaya Shastra is the Indian science of logic. I am shocked. Nyaya Shastra says, one of the basic tenets of Nyaya Shastra is that nothing, even if it is written in the Vedas, agar Vedo mein bhi likha hai, do not accept it at face value until you are thoroughly convinced of it through logic, experimentation or experience. हमने कभी ये नहीं कहा एक किताब पढ़ो, उसको ये भगवान ने कहा है, whatever name we give to that God, तो वो तुम्हारा gospel truth है. अगर तुमने क्वेश्चन किया भगवान के शब्दों को तो तुम शैतान बन जाते हो, तुम्हारे अंदर शैतान है. हमने कभी ऐसा नहीं कहा. इनफैक्ट most of our scriptures are questions and answers. Bhagavad Gita is a question and answer where Arjun is asking questions and Krishna is answering. Arjun is not saying कि अच्छा तुम कृष्णा हो, तुम भगवान हो, तुम जो भी कहोगे मैं एक्सेप्ट करता हूं. And Krishna is not telling Arjun, hello, मैं भगवान हूं, मेरी बात सुनो, don't you dare argue with me and how dare you question me. Krishna is not saying that. Arjun is not saying that. Because questioning, rational thinking is a part of this culture, is the most important aspect of our culture. And don't you think the world needs it today? Logical thinking with values. Knowing that the same God that is there, that created the universe, is there within you and me, is there within an insect, is there within everything. So you cannot hurt anyone without hurting yourself. You cannot love anyone without loving yourself. Isn't this the biggest gift that we as human beings can give to the world? This understanding that I will not hurt anyone. Help ever, hurt never is the essence of our 18 Purans. This is how don't you think the world needs it today? The white man, and the reason I'm saying white is because they thought of themselves as white. The white man came to India to loot India. They allowed our people to die of starvation to fill their coffers with money. And we Indians were inviting the world to give them free education in the topmost universities of the world at that time. This is what we gave to the world. This is our value system. Prosperity, material prosperity that existed in India. If you read the Valmiki Ramayana, if you read the Vedavyas Mahabharata, you will be shocked at the amount of wealth that is mentioned. Okay. But look at the beauty of our culture. Before that, before I go to Robert Clive, the beauty of our culture is dharma, artha, kama, moksha. Okay, that I think comes later in this presentation. So before I go there, I'm sorry, I will do this. Robert Clive is a British officer. हमने अपनी history books में इसके बारे में पढ़ा हुआ है. जब Robert Clive came to India and he looted the Prince of Bengal, Mir Jafar and Mir Qasim gave him gifts. वो gifts लेके जब वो finally when he retired and went back to England, he became the richest man in India, in England, Scotland and Ireland. तीनों को मिला के he was the richest man in those three kingdoms. इतना wealth उसको एक province of India से मिला था. When Mir Jafar became the king in Bengal and he gave gifts to the British officers, it was 2 lakh pounds in 1757, Battle of Plassey. In today's worth, that 2 lakh pounds is 13 billion rupees. That is the amount of wealth that India had. Our GDP in the world before the Britishers came, and I'm not even looking at what the Mughals did to India, I'm just talking about Britishers coming to India. Our GDP in the world was 23%, 23 to 25%. America in its peak, and these days American economy is not doing well, was hardly at about 20%. In those times, our foreign trade and our GDP was that much. India was rich. Why? Because we didn't have the English-British system of knowledge. We had what? We had our Atharva Veda, which also talks about economics. We had our Artha Shastra. We had all these Shastras which we followed. Today, whatever Keats says, whatever Keynes says, whatever Karl Marx said, is a gospel truth, as if to say they introduce a concept of economics. Hello, the concept of economics was there in ancient India. We have, I just told you, Narad is talking about the policy of taxation. So prosperity in India. I told you, Valmiki Ramayana, Vedavyas Mahabharata is full of this. Brahmins, in spite of such prosperity in India, where would the Brahmins stay? The Brahmins would stay in hermitages, forests, where they could do their experimentation, where they could do their yagnas, their yogic siddhis. Have you ever heard of a Brahmin staying in a palatial home, wearing finery and jewelry? No. That is why the Brahmins were exalted, because they gave their lives, dedicated their lives to the pursuit of knowledge and the perfection of the human spirit. That is the only reasons why charity to Brahmins was regarded as a great punya, because no other varna needed charity, and because of the work that the Brahmins were doing. Today we think of Brahmins as some demons. It was not like that. And it was never supposed to be like that. Okay, prosperity. Again, the balance between prosperity and spirituality. There was a time in our culture where we took to the Vanaprastha ashram, which means leaving your material comforts and you're leaving your material attachments and going to the forest. Why? Because there is a time for material success, which is great, which has to be there. And there is a time to resign and say, enough. Now I devote myself only to my spiritual upliftment. That balance was built into Indian culture and Indian society. That is why we were so strongly anchored. Even after so many, कितने civilizations आए, great civilizations आए जो perish हो गए, खत्म हो गए. Persian civilization, Greek civilization, Roman civilization. Why are we surviving? Because this kind of an open mindedness is built into our system. We have been able to balance materialism and spirituality. That is why we have been able to survive for so long. And of course, innovation and logical thinking is a part of our culture. So if you are a logical thinker, if you are an innovator, kuch bhi hone do. Whatever the environment of the world throws at you, you will be able to survive. You will be able to adapt to those changes. Why? Because your culture teaches you to think logically and creative. Okay, a lot of these points will be repetitive. Dharma, artha, kama, moksha. Like I said, wealth is important. But there is a reason why we say dharma, artha, kama, moksha. This is an order. Why? Dharma, most important, being a good human being, having the wisdom to do the right things. Artha, wealth that comes by doing the right things, by following dharma. Kama, you use that wealth to fulfill your desires, the wealth that you got by the right means, and the desires also have to be right. Your desire cannot be to usurp somebody else's wealth. Your desires also have to be dharmic. And once you follow this of dharma, artha, kama, moksha is the logical next evolution that you will attain. Isn't this a roadmap for successful living? Just these 4 words give you a complete roadmap to a successful life, where you can look at yourself in the mirror and feel good about who you are. Is it, do you agree with this or not? Give me a thumbs up. If you agree with this, you don't have to agree with me. But if you do, give me a thumbs up. Yes? Great. Then Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. We already spoke about it. Everything, everybody is God. We are all one. Religions do not matter at all. Your countries do not matter. Nothing matters, because at the end of the day, we are all God. We all belong to God. What are the prayers that we have? Sarve vai sukhina santu, samasta loka sukhino bhavantu. We already spoke about ekam sat vipra bahuda vadanti, which makes us open-minded. Namaste means I bow to the God within you. We have studied that in Vikas. We have spoken about all these. Why I'm talking about the Shanti mantra? Because you're asking Shanti not just for yourself. Antariksha Shanti, Krodha Shanti, Kama Shanti. If you hear the entire Shanti mantra, all we want is peace, joy, and harmony in the universe. This is built into even our religious practices. So these are our values. So you tell me now, is our culture worth preserving? Is Indian culture worth preserving? Yes or no? And you tell me, so how do we preserve it? How do we preserve it? What do we do to preserve it? One thing that we need to understand is, you see, anything just at the thought level is not enough. We have to put it into action. How do we put specifics of our culture to So a culture is a brand. Look at it as a brand. Okay. What makes a brand? Shoot. You tell me. Unmute and quickly shoot. How do you recognize a brand? Yes. How do you know that this particular bottle belongs to this particular brand? How do you know that? Come on, unmute yourself and quickly shoot one after the other. We are in the last 5 minutes of our presentation. Yes? Hello? Sairam?
By advertising.
What does that by advertisement? Advertisement shows you that brand. And how do you know it is that particular brand that the advertisement is showing?
By branding
The
or naming
logo?
on the
What
object.
does that branding say? Branding means a particular color, a particular logo, a particular name.
Yes. Yes.
Huh? Yes? Exactly. So if you look at Sanatan Sanskriti as a brand, what is the packaging of that brand? The core is the values. The core is the values. But what is the packaging? The packaging of that brand is how we dress up. Does that mean we should not wear jeans? We should not wear Western clothes? Of course not. Of course we should wear. They are comfortable. Even I wear. But make it a point at least twice a week to wear your traditional attire. Saris. I don't think there should be any Indian girl, any Indian lady who does not know how to wear a sari. Or any Indian man who does not know how to tie a dhoti. Does that mean you have to wear it every day? No. But ensure that kurta, pajama, dhoti, at least once or twice a week you dress up in your traditional clothes. Okay, that's one packaging of the brand. The second packaging of the brand is to study what you're all about. Thanks to Balvikas. And, after doing this, after what I have been studying about Indian culture in depth, I always used to wonder why Swami says that you are lucky to be born as Bharatiyas. Swami has said that time and again. I would always wonder. Swami says everybody is one. Swami's logo says all religions are one, everything. So why does he stress so much on Bharat? Now, when I've understood these things about our culture, and this is an ocean, I mean, what I've told you today is not even a drop of that ocean. What I know is not even a drop of that ocean. But it is so beautiful. Now I realize why Swami used to stress that you are lucky, you are blessed to be born in Bharat. So dress up, study your own scriptures. Please don't go to an Amish Tripathi, and all these books that talk about, they have got nothing to do with the truth that is mentioned in our scriptures. Nothing to do with it. And I'm sorry, but I'm going to say that upfront. Even I enjoyed Amish Tripathi's Shiva trilogy. I don't know how many of you have read it. I loved reading it. As a writer, I think it was very well structured and all. But today I wonder, I knew it was fiction. So I read it like fiction. But anybody who's not been in Balvikas, any youth who has not gone through the Ramayana or the Mahabharata or the Bhagavad Gita, for them, as Amish Tripathi writes, Ganesha's form was a cancerous growth. It is written there in the Shiva trilogy. He doesn't claim that it is true. He knows it is fiction, but he has used Ganpati's name like this as Shiva's son and Parvati's son, Ganpati. Imagine what is will a person reading this eventually, will that person have respect for the all-powerful creator, master of the universe, Ganpati? Mahaganpati? No. So please read your own scriptures. Don't let anybody tell you that casteism, don't let anybody tell you that Indian women were undermined. Read on your own, even if it's one chapter a day, even if it's two chapters a day, one shloka a day. but read and try and understand. If we can't read Sanskrit, uh, thanks to uh, thanks to the British, read an authentic translation where you can see the Sanskrit also and the translation of that Sanskrit. Please read and question. And finally, do one ritual, one simple ritual. Go to a temple at least once a week. Read one of your scriptures, one shloka at least. Spend 10 minutes with your culture. If you can't do it every day, try and do it at least once a week. Please, we have to get back to our roots. And I'm with your permission, I'm just going to say one or two things more and then we'll end today's presentation, which is an aside. Look at the open-mindedness of this culture. आज today we say कि feminism का एक बहुत बड़ा aspect है that when a girl gets married, she doesn't change her maiden name. ठीक है? So for example, if Pooja Prakash gets married to some Sen, so her name will be Pooja Prakash Sen. She doesn't give up her own family's name. क्यों? Because feminism में हम बोलते हैं कि why should a woman give up her identity? Sita was known as Sita throughout her life. She was known as Janaki, which means Janak's daughter throughout her life. Draupadi was called Draupadi, which means Drupad's daughter throughout her life. She was called Panchali, which means the princess of Panchal throughout her life. Women of ancient India never had to give up their maiden names or their maiden identity. Today we talk so much about body shaming, right? कोई किसी को बोल दे कि you are dark, तो this is offensive. How can you call somebody dark? How can you call somebody fat? Hello? Draupadi ka asli naam, her name was Krishna. Krishna means the dark complexioned one. Which means, and yet she was regarded the most beautiful woman of her time. Because we Indians, we Bharatiyas, we Hindus, never associated beauty with color of the skin. We never associated beauty with the weight of your body. We call Ganpati ko hum मुंह पे बोलते हैं लंबोदर, which means the one with a fat stomach. Are we insulting him? No, it's a matter of fact. There is a big stomach there. Ganpati also doesn't feel insulted. Draupadi never felt insulted as Krishna. These are statements of fact. Today we feel that these are insults because we feel there is a judgment associated with it. If you're dark is equal to not beautiful. No. We Indians were never so closed-minded about it. We have always said the truth and our truths were truths, not judgments. How much more open-minded can a culture get? We call our beloved Lord Krishna. Krishna means what? The dark complexioned one. He had a dark skin, yeah? What is there to feel good or bad about it? But do we love him? Yes, we do. These foolish material associations were never a part of our culture. So the point that I'm trying to make is whatever we are now starting to think of open-minded and progressive is actually going back to what we already had. And we still have, rather. The only thing that we don't have right now is the understanding, which we have to arrive at together. And in this, my upcoming book, Answers to Sanatan's Biggest Questions, should help. Because in that book, I'm dealing with a lot of these questions. How could Shiva behead his own son? What was Krishna's Ras Leela? Exactly. If somebody asks you, how do you explain it? Then why did Sri Ram abandon Mother Sita? Why did the Agni Pariksha happen? All these questions are getting answered in that book. But I hope that after today's presentation, thank you for being so patient. Thank you for being interactive. At least one thing we have all arrived at, that we have a culture to be proud of. We have a culture which is as modern and as relevant as modernism and relevance can get, and we have a duty to preserve our culture. Thank you so much, Jaisaram. If there are any questions, I'll be really, really happy to take them right now. So these points I said I did not. Okay. Go to a pilgrimage center. We all plan trips abroad and all. We like to go to the pyramids of Egypt, but we don't like to go to the ancient temples of India, which is quite sad, actually. So yes, with this, I end my presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Amishi. It was so interesting and I think an eye-opener for many of our children. And thank you so much for, this is very, very necessary to feel proud of our own Indian culture and to really understand what is the real meaning of Indian culture. And you've done it so beautifully. Sairam, and children, we'll have such sessions again every month. So please do join. Please ask your other group 4 children also. And most probably, if we have the recording, we will be putting it up so that those who have missed out would, attending today, because some children had classes and other things, especially those who are in the higher classes. So thank you. And Naveen, can we have the prayers?
One second. Amishi.
Sairam.
Thank you so much for this very, very insightful session, very wonderful session. It's a whole new look at Indian culture. I'm sure all the gurus who are present in this session have a lot of takeaways. I'm just sad that many of our kids could not attend, but we have recorded this session with the group. We'll send you the recording. And I would like 2 people also to just give their comments. Rama, because she was taking this topic, and Brother Siddharth, but who's with us today. So Rama, please, Siddharth. Rama,
You have to unmute. She's there, but she has to unmute.
Okay. Siddharth, please.
Yeah, Sairam, I hope I'm audible.
Yes.
Okay, I cannot start my video. Maybe the host has to allow it to start anyway. I think it was a superb session. There is no 2 thoughts about it. I mean, some facts, it was revelation for me personally as well. And yeah, I think we should be very proud of our rich heritage and culture. And one statement I remember which Vivekananda used to say that let's not forget that we are all descendants of the great sages. If you go back, which we call as, which Gotra you belong to, all of us in Indian culture, it's one of the sages or saints, or not saints, or the sages of the past. So we come from that heritage, that we are descendants of those great sages. And I mean, this was a very important reminder for all of us that we need to, it's not just about being proud, but now it's time that we need to be bold, brave, courageous, and practice it with absolute purest form and be role models to others. I think that's what Vikas students, it is a privilege and a responsibility for all of us that we lead the path by practicing ourselves and be role models to others. I think this is a very, very good session, very important. I was reminded of my summer course in spirituality, which Swami used to organize in those days. And we were given these kind of beautiful insights of those 10 days program, which we used to have in Vrindavan. So fantastic session. I think we should have many more. Maybe there's a part 1 only. I think sister, we will request you to come for part 2, 3, 4 and share your insights more and more with us, which will be a great learning opportunity for all of us. So thank you once again for your time, research, hard work, and sharing these insights.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Bhaiya. Thank you.
Thank you,
Right.
Amishi. We'll see that we have more sessions with you. Because this is what the children, not only the children, I think is more important, the guru should know. Because the whole Indian culture has been presented in a very relevant way, for the new, especially for the youngsters. When they say that, when people deride our country and look down upon our country, I think every child who goes abroad should hear you once. And that's what I felt. So
Thank
thank you so much once again, Amishi, for being with us. So let's end the session with
I think Rama has unmuted herself.
yeah, then please,
Yeah.
Rama, please, we were waiting for you. Please give your comments on the talk.
An insightful session.
Please, a little louder, Rama, we can't hear you.
Very insightful session.
Yes.
Not only for the students, I'm sure for the gurus also. And this topic is so very important, both for the gurus and for the students. And the need of the hour is that we all should practice our culture, and that is how we can also remember what Swami says, that we are Vidyarthi Swarupas and we need to roar like lions. We should not feel that we are inferior in any way, because the Vedas and the Rishis who were recipients of it were much superior to anybody at that time, and the trend continues now. But we are also obsessed with Western culture. That is what we need to shake ourselves out and be proud of our culture and practice. Thank you so much, Amishi.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad that with these kind of comments, I feel by the grace of Swami, uh, one thing that I wanted to impress in this presentation was that our culture is worthy of respect, we worthy of preservation, and worthy of our pride. And if that has gone across, it's a real blessing from Swami. That's all. Thank you so much.
Right. Sign up. Naveen, I think, Naveen, are you there? Can we have the ending, or should somebody end? Naveen? I think Krishna Priya, you can end the session.
Auntie, if you don't mind, I would
Yes.
really like to know, at least from one or two of the participants, the students,
Yeah.
about what they felt. I think I just want a perspective of theirs. Not many, just one or two, if it is not getting too late. I know we are a little
Yeah,
late.
sure. Children, can please, anyone, Atharva is there, or Kirtana, anyone, Yash?
There are many comments and even in the chat, Amishi.
Yeah, but they can talk, na? Shlok is there. Any one of you children, I mean, even people whom I don't know much. Sai Nikita, you are there. Can you please unmute and just say what you felt about the
I think
presentation?
host will have to unmute, no? Not sure.
Naveen had joined. Naveen, can you? Naveen, can you?
Anybody wants, just raise your hand, puts a thumbs up, and we can ask, we can try and unmute. Anybody who wants to speak, it would be nice of you to share what you have felt during this session with Sister Amishi.
Or what part did you like the best? Anything that just gives us I'm saying it not for any praise or anything. It will be an educative experience for me also. Yes, Atharva has raised.
Yeah, Atharva, please.
Sairam, myself, Atharva Pinshe. So I like this session as it was interactive and informative also. Myself, I am trying to get to the roots because I am reading too many books related to the Indian culture. So I like this session. So, and I have one request. Can we take this session offline interactive type so it will be more enjoyable and That's right.
Sai Nikita, could you please, or Kirtana, any of one girl student, please, can you just, or anyone? Atharva wants to say, Atharva wants to speak, right? Yes. No, Atharva spoke just now, I think. No,
Look has
Look
raised
is
hand.
Atharva More wants to speak. Yeah, okay. Just unmute Atharva More.
Sairam, Shlok.
Sairam.
Shlok, very good. Yes.
Ma'am, I was very interested in topics like Indian culture and India's history. I do a lot of research in the sense what I can find. For example, I hear podcasts on YouTube and everything. About this session, I really found it very shocking that Amishi ji said that Sati Pratha was not very common in India and that only a very small percent was practiced in India, which is very shocking for me as in our schools we were taught that it was one of the evil practices of the later Vedic period, etc. And it was how India was very patriarchal.
So thank you so much. Shlok, I'm glad. Even I was shocked when I read this. So thank you so much. This is from Meenakshi Jain's book called Sati.
Oh,
So
okay, thank you.
Atharva More wanted to speak, no? So can we have
Yes, Sairam, myself, Atharva More. So till today, I only knew that India had a rich culture, but today actually I understood how rich is Indian culture and how we are proud of it. So it was a really informative session and very informative for me. So thank you.
thank you. Thank you so much, Athar. Means a lot. Really means a lot. Thank you so much.
If anybody wants to speak in Hindi, you could. Please go ahead. If somebody is not comfortable in English, you can most welcome to speak in Hindi. Anyone? Yes.
साईराम
Yes, sir.
मैं शिवराम मूर्ति बोल रहा हूँ।
Yes, sir.
प्रेम वाहिनी में 16वां अध्याय में भगवान बाबा ने कहा है कि 85% जितने भी ऋषि महर्षि देवर्षि और ब्रह्मर्षि भी हुए हैं वे सब नॉन ब्राह्मण्स थे। तो ये जाति से जो जाति हम लोग मानते आ रहे हैं उस जाति के हिसाब से कोई ब्राह्मण को ही ये बात है, ऐसी बात नहीं है। तो मैं जो स्पीकर जी हैं जिन्होंने कहा जातिवाद कोई गणना नहीं करना चाहिए, ये बिल्कुल सही है क्योंकि स्वामी ने यही कहा 85% जो है ऋषि महर्षि जैसे विश्वामित्र नारद जी सब कोई भी ब्राह्मण नहीं थे जात से। साईराम साईराम।